Hey guys, welcome to the live stream. I think I'm the only one here right now, but I'm going to start off with three disclaimers before we get to the meat of things. Firstly, this is a no effort live stream. It has been a very long time since I've live streamed. I'm extremely rusty, and so I'm just putting in the effort to be here. It'll go the way it goes. I will entirely understand though if you want to go hang out with video that's better edited. Second thing of note, you may notice my little house panther here in the back. There are two cats in my room, and they may at some point, the little man-eaters, decide to interrupt the stream. We'll go with the flow. I love them more than I love videos. So third thing of note, there's currently a robot vacuum apocalypse happening out there right now. Every once in a while it tries to beat down the doors, but don't worry, I'm perfectly safe. It has no arms and we've taken away its weapons. But it's a little loud. So yeah, so basically what I want to do with this live stream is just spend some time kind of catching you guys up on my brand and where we've been and where we're going. If you are completely confused right now, this is because I used to write and publish under my married name, J.E. Perazzi. And I have recently switched over to a pen name, J.H. Moore, which is why I'm talking as if I've been here for a while and maybe just not been seen when it's the first live stream I've ever done on this particular video. Sorry, it's confusing. I apologize, but that's all the catch up you need to know. So yeah, my name is J.H. Moore. I am the author of the Malfunction Trilogy, the Raven Tree Society, which is actually still under J.E. Perazzi. The Legend of Tahiri. Yes, I have more books that I need to remember now. And this is the newest edition. This is Under the Ancient Ageless Sky. And this is just a collection of short stories that I've written throughout the years. Most of them have been published before, but there's a few, at least one newbie in there that's not been published before. So yeah, check it out if you're interested to see some bite-sized versions of my work that's got fantasy and horror and sci-fi, all those goodies. So for the most part, I can just consider myself a science fiction writer. I put the emphasis on cyberpunk and sci-fi horror. I do enjoy kind of dabbling outside of that. I am a creative and we know no bounds, which is not great for marketing, but neither is most of the other stuff I do. So that's just the way it is. But yeah, so I kind of want to fill you guys in on what's up for the year ahead. The main thing that I've been focusing on this 2024 was kind of a rough year for me. It's been, I'd say, maybe a year and a half, 2 years that I've not really been inside the publishing space. I did put out 2 books during that time, but I was not hardcore marketing them. Legend of Tahiri actually was in the blog off competition, and that was Spiffbo. That was a fun experience, but other than that, I really haven't done anything as far as like marketing, being out there, being engaged with my Discord. I haven't been putting out newsletters. I don't have my website up currently. Blog posts have been like here or there, but not really much anywhere. This year I've been publishing a few articles with Pathos, which is kind of a religious magazine, online magazine. I'll probably be stepping back from that in the near future. So if you guys have been seeing those pop up and you've been enjoying them, most likely within the next few months, I'll be stepping back from those so I can focus more on my fiction writing. So yeah, that's just kind of an update on that. Other than that, I really haven't been involved. I think I've read like 8 books this past year, 2024. Like when I say I've not been involved, it's like, I've just been surviving. So kind of, a glimpse into that. And I don't want to go too much into details, but I've been dealing with chronic health issues, CPTSD diagnosis, divorce, move, a whole bunch of nonsense that made writing and publishing kind of a no-go. But through the grace of God, I've kind of had a resurgence of creativity, and I've been writing like a crazy person the last few months, which has been incredibly refreshing, and I've loved it. I really intended for 2024 to be like my relaunch year, but 2024 had better ideas. No, it had much worse ideas. But we survived 2024. This is supposed to be my big year, but I'm not going to be expecting much of anything. We'll just put it that way. But I do have a few plans in mind. So the first thing is, like I said, I've moved everything except for the Raven Tree Society over to my new pen name, J.H. Moore. If you guys have read any of my books that were previously under J.E. Prazzi and written reviews and want to support me, I would absolutely love if you would go put your reviews from my J.E. Prazzi pen name under the same books under the J.H. Moore pen name, especially like on Amazon and those types of platforms, because when I moved those books over to the J.H. Moore pen name, it just deleted all of that stuff, which I understand. I get it. I'm not frustrated or angry. That's part of my, one of the things I needed to factor in moving things over. But it's also kind of tough to get things back up off the ground when all of my books have like 0 reviews, and they have been published for a number of years. So yeah, if you guys want to support me, that's a great way to start. I'm also working with my sister to create some new logos and stronger branding. It does not look like that right now, mainly because like she's done all the work. It looks beautiful. I'm just computer illiterate. So I need to like figure out the right way to like work with the files she sent me and make sure that I don't mess up her hard work. It's really cool. I can't wait to like unveil all of it, but it's going to be slow going because I want to do it right. For now, we're just kind of fumbling around in the dark the way I've always done. Yeah, but don't expect, like, I'm not going to be doing a lot of like live streams and stuff. I'd like to focus kind of on the foundations. So while this live stream is, it's out there and it's gonna be fun, I would like to, keep the option open to do a YouTube channel in the future, maybe a podcast. Like right now, none of those things are a possibility. So while they're kind of on my bucket list, we'll say, as an author, they're not something to look for this year. So yeah, definitely I'm going to be doing a relaunch, kind of nailing down my branding. There's a few big moves I want to make that you can kind of expect. One of the things is that I'm going to be sticking much more to my science fiction roots. I have right now 2 main series out, and then 1 standalone. And while I consider myself a science fiction author and most of my short stories are science fiction and stuff, the actual series go all across speculative fiction. So the Raven Tree Society is horror, the Malfunction trilogy is science fiction, and then Tahiri is a standalone cozy fantasy. So they're not in a consistent vein. I would really like to lean more into the science fiction this year and moving forward my brand. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be publishing outside of that ever. I do, I do still want to explore. I really like Gothic horror. I really like some of the ideas in fantasy that I might still play around in. But that's not going to be the majority of my brand. The majority of my brand is going to lean really hard into science fiction, and particularly in the cyberpunk genre, because that's kind of where my heart is. I have kind of made it a consistent goal in the past to publish a horror every October. That has not been happening in recent years. And so one of my goals is to be moving over to science fiction horror a little bit more. while I do still really love like the gothic horror and the ghost stories and kind of modernizing the gothic horror that I love so much, I will not be working as much in those veins. I have some really exciting science fiction horror ideas that I'm going to be working on that are just going to be, standalones. That my plan is to still have at least one once a year. We'll see how things work out with my schedule. I'm trying to be, a few books ahead so that I have some books completed already for next year. I actually just finished a first draft for a book that's coming out in 2026. But, I don't want to like nail things down too much because I don't want to disappoint you guys. But my goal is to have a horror out every October. And the next several are going to be science fiction horror. So that's kind of what you can look for in the future. I personally just absolutely love science fiction horror. I think they blend very well together. This year, however, 2025, I do have the horror book completed for this year. I'm still working on the actual title that I'm going to use. Right now, it's with its second round with my critique partners. And it should be ready, God willing. This one has been giving me repeated kicks in the pants. It should be ready by October, and this one is actually a modern gothic horror. So, it does not play with science fiction at all. It's modern. It takes, some concepts that you would find, it's mostly inspired by things like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and kind of that Victorian era, like monsters and, human beings are the monsters kind of concept. So that's going to be coming out in October. Right now, the working title for that is Within. I have kind of, thrown some things out there in the world to kind of talk about those in the past. And actually, if you go on my Ko-fi, I think I had the first 2 or first 3 chapters available for you to read if you're interested in that. There are going to be, it has gone through quite a few changes, but I think the first 2 chapters are pretty consistent with what I put out. So yeah, that'll be coming in October, and that's already, like, I consider it a completed book. While it is still in beta, there's not going to be a ton of changes from here. Like, it's not going to be any story level changes. It might be some character tweaks and some language changes and stuff like that. But I'm not rewriting this thing anymore, guys. If I have to rewrite it one more time, I swear it's going in the garbage. But yeah. So I think I already mentioned, working title right now is Within. I don't think that's the title I'm going to publish under. So yeah, I think I'll probably throw out a pitch a little bit later and see what some of my readers think, because I'm not great with titles. So I'd like to find something that's a little bit more, that works a little bit better with the book. And I'll probably be doing the art for the cover for that one as well. I'm kind of excited about that. I really liked being able to do the art for the Raven Tree Society covers, and I want to, lean back into that watercolor stuff again. So I do see I have one viewer. Hello, one viewer. Welcome. Not sure when you showed up, but it's good to have you here. Yeah, so one gothic horror plan for this year. The other 2 books that I have planned are one novella, and that is the Jordan Launay prequel novella. So if you're familiar with the Malfunction trilogy, I have Malfunction, Disintegration, and Connection, and the 3 of them are the actual trilogy. But then Revelation and Infraction are the 2 prequel stories, one from Kyle Coven's point of view, one from his older brother Stark. I wanted to, at one point, I had quite a list of, I think I had like 9 different prequel novellas that I was looking at doing, and a number of short stories as well. I would still like to visit a lot of those. Some of them I'm not so sure if I want to dig into. I think Minerva's prequel story is the one that's really kind of bothering me the most, because to tell the story that actually, like, there would be a story there to tell, not only are the readers kind of familiar with that, but it also, I think, would be a little bit too much for readers. Lanay's prequel novella, that one is called Absolution. And that one is the one that I'm working on right now. I'm over halfway through the first draft of that. My goal, I'm about 70% of the way through. My goal with that is to have a book ready to come out in spring. So I'm pushing myself to have a book by the end of spring. It's a pretty tight outline. There shouldn't have to be any major changes, because the prequel novellas are 25,000 words, not anything nearly as intimidating as the 100K that was Connection. So Lord willing, I'll get all that put together, and that'll be out for you guys in late spring. I'm not going to give you a date because I've learned better. But yeah, so I'm looking at setting that up. And I'm really excited for that, because I have had several readers mention how much they wanted that. Jordan Lanay, if you're not familiar, is one of the antagonists in the trilogy, and he's one of the more humanized antagonists. So a lot of readers have been curious as to his motivations and his background and his history. I am a little bit nervous about it, because it's dealing with some really heavy topics. So thankfully, I have a couple really great critique partners. I may try to pick up some beta readers. My critique partners for the Malfunction trilogy, actually none of them are publishing right now. All of them are outside of the writing space. I was able to find an incredible new critique partner, and I've really been enjoying working with her and writing with her. But I like to have multiple voices, in the writing process. So I'm looking to maybe add some beta readers. I don't know if I want to add more critique partners necessarily. I tend to prefer working with critique partners over beta readers. But the difference being, critique partners are authors who are writing and publishing. They're in the space. They have a good grasp of storytelling, and they're functioning more like developmental editors, and we're swapping that. It's much more of a relationship than it is kind of a kind of testing kind of thing. Whereas beta readers, and not all authors follow these strict definitions, by the way. So with beta readers are readers who, yeah, sure, they might write. They may, usually we find them in the writer space, but beta readers are more there to kind of express how a reader is going to accept and understand the book, coming purely from a reading standpoint. And I personally have not enjoyed working with beta readers. I've had a few that were great, and I've had a few who, for instance, Kyle Coven. Here come the vacuum overlords. Kyle Coven, everybody's favorite character in Malfunction. There's wars fought between if Kyle Coven is better or Bass is better. My Beautiful Minerva just kind of gets forgotten or hated, but I won't be too bitter about that. This one beta reader, when he first read Revelation, actually said he wanted to curb stomp Cowell. He was so irritating. So I'm glad that I didn't go with his perspective, because everybody loves Cowell. So deleting him out of existence would have been a really bad idea. But yeah, anyway, so that just kind of gives you kind of an idea of where I'm at with the Lane story right now. I'll probably be trying to pick up a few beta readers to kind of just give me an idea of how readers are going to accept such a heavy topic, especially readers who, I'm assuming most readers who pick up Absolution are going to be coming from the Malfunction trilogy. So especially readers who, have already fallen in love with certain characters, to see those characters suffering as children might be a little bit heavy. So, so that's kind of where I'm at the process right now. I'm hoping to have it out in in late spring, but it's possible I might have to push it back to fall or even later, if depending on how my critique partner and beta readers kind of respond to it. So we'll see how that works out. The other book I have planned for this year, and some of you guys, if you have been following me for some time, might be familiar with the short story Stealing Life, and then also Stealing Freedom, which was the short stories. One was part of the Phoenix Fiction Writers free giveaway book for the newsletter, and then another one, the second one's the Stealing Freedom, was part of the first anthology that we put out, the Anti-Heroes anthology. So both of those are no longer in publication. I kind of fell in love with those stories, so I'm extending those. I am actually putting those short stories together. I'm expanding them, and I've created a full novel with all the characters, a lot of the same beats, but just adding a lot more depth. And then I've actually outlined up to, at this point, I'm at 7 novels for that particular series. And I will talk a little bit more about that in kind of my overall publishing plans. But for right now, so I think on the last 10%, I'm writing the climactic scene for that particular story. A lot of it's already written because I'm able to take from the short story, which is great. But there's been enough changes that, I'm still going to need to go through and do some rewrites, do some polishing, do a lot of character work in particular, because I write very character-driven stories. So there's a lot of character work that needs to happen to kind of make it cohesive. And then that I'm planning to have come out mid to late summer. So the first draft is essentially finished. I just have, I think, maybe 2 or 3 chapters to finish up. And then I'm going to be starting on my first rewrites. I typically do my first rewrites before I hand it off to anyone else. So I'll do, my first draft, and then I'll do my rewrites, where I'll go through and I'll, make the tweaks that I feel like need to happen to the plot. I'll make the tweaks that I feel like need to happen to the characters to make them more enjoyable. And then I'll do the first rewrite, and then I'll hand it off to my beta readers for the first round. Now I know that this is going to look different because I don't have 3 critique partners before. Before, I used to have at least 2 of my critique partners, depending on the story. I have one who doesn't do very well with horror, or some of the darker elements. So, depending on which reader, I would be able to have at least 2, sometimes 3 readers go through it, and, maybe one for the second draft and one for the third draft, or, both at the same time. I typically try to keep it around 3 drafts. So based on the speed that I'm going right now, I'm pretty confident I'll have something by summer, as long as nothing horrific happens. I would say fingers crossed, but right now my luck, we don't trust in luck, guys. But yeah, so that should hopefully be out sometime in, I'm thinking July or August, possibly. So yeah, that's what we're looking at right now. We're looking at 3 releases: Absolution, which is the Malfunction trilogy prequel novella, with Jordan Launay as the main character, as a point of view character. We have Stealing Life, which is probably going to get a new title, which is a cyberpunk heist novel. Think like Blade Runner meets Ocean's 11. And then we have Within, which is, again, a working title, which is a monster horror gothic story, which I'm really excited to get that out there. It's heavy, but I think it's good. So yeah, those are the 3 that I have planned for 2025. As I said, I do already have, I think I have, at this point, I have 3 years of planning kind of ahead for what the next few books are going to look like. And I don't want to talk about those too much, other than to say, I do have one finished draft done for 2026. And depending on how well I can rein in my brain, I may have more by the end of the year. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about my brand shift at this point. So as I said, I would like to focus much more on science fiction. My heart's in science fiction. It's all my favorite things are in science fiction. I understand it does not sell as well, especially my brand of science fiction, but I also know that I've managed to reach a decent readership that I feel like resonates with me, and that I've loved seeing your guys' feedback, reading reviews, talking with you guys, getting your opinions on my characters, and seeing readers pull out themes and Easter eggs that I never thought anyone would be able to find. So yeah, I love the genre. I love the focus on themes and on some of these kind of deeper things. I am never going to be an author who focuses on romance to carry my stories. I'm not going to be in the romantic-y space. I don't care how exciting that is. That's nothing against the people who do write in that space or who enjoy that stuff. It's just not my skill set. So I'm sticking with what I know, and I'm leaning into it. I'm getting excited about it. So the main thing that's going to be changing is I would like to kind of create a what's the word? I lose words a lot these days, which is why I write them down, because they keep dropping out of my head. Flagship. I would like to have kind of a flagship series. So Stealing Life right now, that particular world, not only is it Stealing Life, I have a large cast of characters who will all have points of view in the future, who will have different, stories they can tell, and different things they can be doing within that world. The world itself is quite large. So I've built out a world, a cyberpunk world, that I feel I can tell a lot of stories in. It kind of naturally came out that way. I got excited about it, started plucking some things out. The manuscript that I just finished for 2026 is in that same world. I have a few other ideas that I have not fully plotted them or planned them, but characters that are going to pop up who will have their own series, their own stories. So I would like to kind of build out this flagship series that will be the center of my brand. As the flagship series, I am going to be stepping back, which is kind of funny because it's not what it looks like right now, guys. I need to do a lot of editing. I'm stepping back on the swearing, the violence, and the heavy themes. Now, it's still me. There's still going to be a lot of heavy themes. There's still going to be a lot of dealing with thoughts on personhood, and I put my characters through horrible things. I'm still writing my stories. But I found that swearing is just really unnecessary. While it was kind of fun to play around with the first book, having grown up in a really conservative Baptist background, I mean, hey, I can put in as many swear words as I like. It just limits unnecessarily limits my audience. So I don't really see much of a reason to have it, or at least have a lot of it in my books. So that's not to say I'm not ever going to have swearing in my books. It's probably going to be based more off of my readership. So it might be a little bit more present in my horror, but as far as especially the Stealing Life series, I'm backing off of that. I'm also backing off of the violence. So, of course, there's still going to be people dying and blood and gore and fight scenes. That's part of what I enjoy writing. I like high action. I like exploring concepts about personhood and the ways in which we treat each other and recovering from trauma and all that kind of stuff. However, I think there were a few people who would have really enjoyed Malfunction who were not able to enjoy it because of the amount of violence that I put in there. And that's not to say that I really regret how I wrote the Malfunction trilogy. I've just matured as an author, and I think there's different ways to do that. My stuff is still going to be pretty dark, but it's not going to be to the levels that it was in the Malfunction trilogy in particular. So that's another thing I'm going to be backing off of. And then the last thing is the heavy themes. Right now, there are still some pretty heavy themes. They're experimenting on children. Like, if you understand the basis of the Stealing Life stuff, they're experimenting on children. So it's still pretty heavy, but the levels in which it's focused on and impacts the plot, I'm going to be trying to back off that a little bit. That's just mainly to make them more accessible, a little bit easier to read. They're not going to be cozy science fiction at all. I wrote a cozy fantasy. I loved it. I enjoyed it. Tahiri was great. It was healing and soothing for my soul. But it's not the kind of stuff that I like to wrestle with in my fiction. So while those kinds of books, I might occasionally write them, it's not where my heart is. So they're still going to be pretty dark and heavy to deal with, but I want to make them a little bit more available to a wider audience. Another thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be trying to keep them around 50,000 words. Right now, I'm hitting between 50 to 60,000 words. I usually add a little bit more while editing. Now, I want to always allow the story to dictate the word count, but it does make it easier for me to put out more books and to put them out more consistently if I have a clear word count set and have it, pretty obvious. This is going to be, I'm aiming for this. This is where I'm going to constrict my plot lines to, and we're going to keep it in that kind of vein. Now, particularly with Stealing Life, which again is going to be kind of the main through line with this new world. I'm also going to be focusing on stories that can be kind of told within one book. So if you're familiar, if you've read The Raven Tree Society at all, you'll see I kind of played around with this format in a much shorter and much more formulaic setting where each story covered a particular arc. Each season covered a particular arc, and then there was a large arc that covered all 3 seasons. So in the Stealing Life series, what I'm trying to do, what I like to look at doing is, each story, there go the man-eaters, be nice. Each book is going to kind of cover, because I'm dealing with mercenary characters. So each book is going to kind of cover a particular job they have. And these jobs cover, a different variety of things. They may be accepting a job for someone else or doing a job, based off of a particular character's need at that moment. But each book that I have plotted out so far focuses on a particular job they have as a group or sometimes splitting off, into separate groups. And then there's also an overarching story that covers a larger portion of those books. And then there's also other stories from different series that are going to kind of coincide. My hope with that is to make it a little bit more accessible for readers to be able to pick up any book they find and start reading and have a better, have an ability to actually follow the story. So I'm still, for me, the benefit of writing a series is to be able to tell larger stories. And we've seen that, in now with streaming, we have the ability to tell large sweeping stories that take an entire season. If you think about things like The Haunting of Hill House or Arcane, or those are not the kinds of stories that we used to tell with our television. We used to have easily digestible monster of the week episodes or stuff like that, so that if someone was not able to get home from work on time to watch their favorite TV show, they could still sit down and watch it the next week. Now with streaming on demand, we can go back to the beginning. We can stop it whenever we want. We can, and for me, that's one of the benefits of writing in a series, is having more space to tell a larger story. And to get to know the characters a little bit more, get to know the world a little bit more, really immerse yourself. So I don't want to go to the full, each book is its own thing that you might see with some thriller series or some, detective novels or even romances where they're separated out to themselves. To be honest, that's better for marketing. There is a reason why thrillers and romances sell so well, but I'm not really writing in a genre that sells super well. So my primary focus when it comes to my storytelling is my storytelling rather than my marketing. So while I'm making some choices to try and make it so that I can, earn a reasonable income off of the work that I'm putting in, I'm also doing it with a focus that, this is my passion. I love doing this. Someone popped in and someone left. It was nice seeing you for 5 seconds, whoever you were. Where was I? Yes. My focus is always going to be on the storytelling over the marketing, because it's what I'm passionate about. It's what I care about. I have a job. I have a full-time job. I work overtime. I don't need to, sacrifice what I'm passionate about right now to make money. I'm very, very lucky to be in a position where I can do that. A lot of people are not. So I'm very thankful for that, and I want to continue doing that. So you're going to see that particular series, the Stealing Life series in that particular world, is going to be the majority of my output in the next few years. I'm really excited about the world. I'm really excited about things I can accomplish in that world. I think there are a lot of stories to tell and a lot of characters that I'm really excited for you guys to meet, and a lot of themes I can dig into. And it's, cyberpunk, near future. So it's visually gorgeous. It is spans across the entire globe. There's going to be some space travel in the future. There's going to be dealing with, AI and with robots and all these things that we're kind of dealing with right now. So it's going to be fun to explore and play with. And I'm excited about digging into that. That being said, that's not going to be the only thing that's happening in my brand. So I do want to talk about the Malfunction trilogy a little bit. The Malfunction trilogy was the first thing that I put out. It's what I'm best known for. It's actually not what sells best. The Raven Tree Society is my best sellers, but people know me for my great speaking there, for the Malfunction trilogy. And I'm happy about that. I love that. I've been rereading a few of them recently. And any authors out there will know how cringy it is to reread your stuff. But it's, these characters, I feel like they are friends, that they are real people, and just kind of sitting with them for a little while has been really healing and really enjoyable. And getting to go back and to flesh out Lanae's story a little bit has been incredible. So at one point I did have the plan to really expand that world and kind of go crazy in it. I wanted to write a series covering, when the aliens first came, actually kind of based off of the primary genetic donor for the majority of the biobots, Bass, and, basically Bass's father, just a couple hundred years removed. But I'm not super focused on that right now. I still want to play around with a few different prequel novellas and short stories. I have one short story that's mostly written, that's kind of based off of some of the stuff that happened during the Connection book, or like right before the Connection book. I have a few different ideas that I want to play around with. I would love to write from Capricorn's point of view, cover some of the stuff that happened with him. Capricorn is another antagonist that's, kind of a fan favorite. So I'd love to go cover Cap a little bit. There's a few different points of view that I'd love to explore and play with right now. But what I'm most excited about, and what I've been thinking about the most consistently over the last 2 years, is I really wanted to follow up the Malfunction trilogy with a spin-off trilogy. So I would be doing the cliche author thing that we all do when we're writing, the follow-up series, and it would be following the kids of the main characters. So right now that would be Jason, Ruben, and Star or Stark. If you have not read the trilogy, I don't want to ruin that for you. So if you don't know who they are, that doesn't mean all the characters survive. Doesn't mean all the characters die. Just take that for what you will. I have actually already outlined the first book of that follow-up trilogy. I am not rushing into that because I feel like I don't have enough of the story really figured out in my head. I'm a plotter. But I have the first book plotted. So I have been considering that for 2026 or 2027, possibly. I'm not rushing into it, but I would like to expand upon that world. So you can expect Absolution will not be the last you see of the Malfunction characters and the Malfunction world. It will not be a continuous thing that I'm doing. The Malfunction trilogy is done. It is completed. It is finished. But there are going to be additions to that world. The follow-up trilogy would, it would have a lot of the same characters. It would have a lot of the same world, but it would, what I'm really most excited about exploring in that is kind of this idea, the politics surrounding everything that had happened. I feel like that was one thing that Connection failed to really deliver on. I had a few readers mention that as well, but as an author, it was just something that I was craving when I ended it, and I kind of left things open, and I was like, I really wish that I could explore this a little bit more, because this idea is really like, I had all these headcanons of like, oh, this is how this, this character is going to go down, and this is how, these people are going to react to these people, and this is how like this character is now a leader in this way. And with the follow-up trilogy, I really want to explore that in depth a little bit more. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about playing around in that world. We'll just see how readers react to everything. But that is a plan. As far as the horrors go, those are going to be standalone. There's not going to be series. There's not going to be anything crazy on those. I'm really excited about some of them. Their horror works really well with high concept science fiction. So I'm really excited about playing with some of these high concept of just like these ideas of like, oh, wow, that's kind of terrifying. Let's look into that a little bit more. And then I do have one fantasy, actually the beginning of Under the Ancient and Ageless Sky has several fantasy short stories. And I believe 3 out of the 4 of those are all based in the Legend of Tahiri world, which is, I'm going to tell you guys a secret. Most authors, when they start off in fantasy. It's not because they love fantasy. It's not because they read fantasy. It's because you get to make everything up. And so you can't break the rules. And it's just easier to do. So as a teenager who wanted to write and who absolutely loved Lord of the Rings, what was I going to do? I was going to write fantasy. And so I spent, and this is another very typical author thing. This is, when I say very typical, I am not talking down to anyone. This is just a pattern I noticed. We do this. I built this entire world. I wrote my own Silmarillion. I wrote I think 200,000 word book that will likely never see the light of day. And that was going to be what I published. I'm very thankful for it. It got me into publishing. But I have definitely played around with the idea of revisiting that series, rewriting everything, and actually publishing some fantasy. So I've been playing around with that idea. You may see some fantasy in the future. You may see some non-science fiction horror. You most definitely will see lots of cyberpunk, some sci-fi horror, and some works from the Malfunction trilogy. So if you enjoy and are excited about my cyberpunk, my atmospheric writing, my dealing with concepts such as personhood, cyborgs, if you are as nerdy about cyborgs as I am, if you are into high concept sci-fi horror, you like to be scared by the idea of the insane things people can accomplish when they decide to break the rules, then I think we're going to have fun together. So yeah, that's kind of the plans that I have for right now. I'm really excited about 2025, cautiously excited about 2025, as I have right now most of the writing done for 2025. So I am cautiously optimistic that publishing is going to go forward. Oh yes, one other project I kind of wanted to just throw out there, may or may not be happening. I have been, so I worked really closely with Pool Publishing Services. She's incredible. She did the Malfunction trilogy covers. She did the covers for the Raven Tree Society. I did the art. She did the designing. She's done all my formatting. She's incredible, and she's a wonderful person. However, she's kind of been moving out of the science fiction and fantasy space and hasn't been enjoying working in that as much. And I know she's not as active in the publishing sphere. My whole kind of writing team has shifted a lot in the last few years. So because of that, I'm kind of like, okay, well, if I'm going to be publishing more in the Malfunction trilogy world, and I don't have the same cover designer, I may be wanting to look at some other things, especially now that Amazon KDP is offering hardcovers. So I'm just tossing this out there. If anyone knows any really, really good science fiction artists who do not use AI and who might be interested in working with me in some special edition covers or some really just incredible like sci-fi art covers, I am at a loss. I've kind of been poking my nose around. I paid for a few that they weren't horrible. They weren't exactly what I was looking for, and I'm pretty sure most of them used AI. They're bought and paid for, it is what it is. But I would really like to work with an artist who's going to be able to really make my vision come to life. And I think with Malfunction in particular, it really needs a very specific type of probably digital art that I'm not going to be able to do myself. I just don't think that watercolor art in my style is really going to capture the look. So that's something I'm saving and looking towards. And I'll keep you guys updated on if anything comes of that or not. It's something I've always wanted to do since the beginning. I love the covers they have. I think they're beautiful. I really like the branding on them. But as an author, when you put your books out into the world, you want to see your characters on them, and you want to see you want to see the action displayed on them. You want to see like that heart behind them on the cover. And while I think the covers do a really good job conveying some of the stuff about the fiction, there are also, they're stock photos. Poole did an incredible job of what she had, but she's not a digital artist. And, I didn't have $2,000-$3,000 to tank into it at the time. So yeah, it probably won't happen this year, but something I'm saving up for and looking into. So yeah, that's where we're at. 2025 is going to be interesting and exciting. And if I survive it, my publishing career is going to be interesting and hopefully exciting. I hope you guys are along for the ride. So yeah, thank you for following along. Thank you for watching. Thank you for investing and being interested in what I'm doing, and for putting up with all the noise of my crazy kitties and the violent robot banging on my door. But I am a science fiction writer, right? It's kind of on brand. Sorry, I'm being distracted by a kitten. All right. Well, I wish you guys very happy 2025. I hope you guys have some incredible goals and reach all of them. And I hope you guys have a great night. Bye.